It is getting harder and harder to find commitment nowadays. And not just commitment, but finding a man who is willing and able to give it. Is it the case that less men are willing to give commitment nowadays? Or maybe is it just harder to know how a man gets to that point where he wants to give it to a woman? The point where he says, yes, I want to commit to this person long term. Well, if you answered yes to any of those questions, then you're right. It is true that it seems that less men are willing to commit nowadays because it's easier to get sex in these modern times. However, there are still plenty of women attracting real commitment and great relationships, as hard as that may be to believe. Like, we all know that one girl who's always in a relationship. I mean, the boyfriends may change over time, but she still manages to get their commitment nevertheless. Equally, we all know that other girl who has always been perpetually dating, but is never really getting the commitment from the men that she wants. Heck, that girl might be you. So what's the difference between these two kinds of women? One understands the pathway to a man's commitment, and the other one doesn't have the knowledge yet. So allow me to bestow the knowledge upon you today. We're going to go through the 5-stage process that every man goes through to get to the point of giving his commitment to the woman that he really wants. To get to that point where he looks at you and goes, you're the person I want to invest my future with. So the first stage is interest and attraction. This is a guy interested in you? Does he find you attractive? Now, the truth is, if the guy does find you attractive, there's going to be some level of interest there. Now, it does depend on the type of guy, because if he's the kind of guy who's quite desirable, you know, maybe he's never really struggled in attracting women, or at least he doesn't struggle attracting women now. For that kind of man, him just finding you attractive isn't enough for him to take a real interest in you, because you can find someone attractive and then you can be attracted to them. 9 times out of 10, if he does think that you are attractive, then he's at least going to have a level of curiosity about you. And if he does, when he gets to know you and sees that you're a great person, then he decides, okay, this is someone that I'm actively drawn to. That's what determines the real attraction. The next stage and second stage is getting to know each other. This is when he's spending time with you, where he's making an effort to get to know who you are, and you are getting to know who he is. And naturally, if he is a man who is looking for something serious, he understands that just because you may be attractive, just because a woman may be beautiful, that doesn't qualify her for choosing long term. Because the only kind of guys who do that are the kind of guys who don't really have options, or the kind of men who aren't used to attracting high quality women. And so they will take whatever they can. And I'm assuming that's not the kind of man that you're looking for. You don't want a man who's going to choose you because he can't choose anyone else. You want to choose a man who chooses you because he sees the value that you have to bring. The kind of man that says, this is the person who I want to invest all my effort in outside of anyone else. The man who goes, you're the person that I want to invest my time and effort in over everyone else. So getting to know you, going out on dates, it will also show that he'll be happy to meet with you where sex is off the table. So he'll be happy to go for lunch with you, then you go your separate ways, or maybe you go to an event with him, or he comes to one of your friends' event with you, and maybe you stay over, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have sex. Maybe there's a level of intimacy, but it's okay if you don't have sex. This is a man who really prioritizes spending a level of emotional time with you. Time outside of the home, doing activities and creating fun experiences together. Because that's how he gets to see the different sides of you, and that's how you get to see the different sides of him. And that's how his attraction to you, his romantic intention and romantic attraction grows towards you. The next stage is emotional connection. This is when a man starts to show a level of vulnerability with you. Now, generally speaking, it takes a lot more for a man to open up to a woman, to show a side of himself that a woman can connect with emotionally. Because a lot of the time when a man is a bit too vulnerable too soon, it turns the woman off. Now, I do believe that men have to earn a level of vulnerability with a woman. She has to like him enough. There has to be a high enough level of interest from her to him. There needs to be a level of emotional connection before he does that, in a way that him being vulnerable isn't seen as weakness or a man who's unstable in himself, but it's seen as a sign of endearment and an opportunity for her to connect deeper with him. And it's at this stage that you can connect deeper with him. Now, a lot of the time, some women struggle and they think, oh, how do I get him to open up to me emotionally? Why isn't he being vulnerable with me now? But what men do is they will show a little bit of vulnerability with you to see how you handle that before he then shows the big things, the things that have much higher stakes. It happens quite often where a man will show a woman a little bit of vulnerability and she has no idea that that is what he is doing. So for example, let's say that you invite him to go horse riding because you like it, right? And let's say that he's had an experience with horse riding where he didn't have a really great experience, so he's not too confident in doing it. But of course he says yes because he wants to spend time with you and maybe he still wants to impress you in this area. Now, you invite him to go horse riding. He goes, oh, yeah, of course, I'd love to go and stuff, but just take it easy on me because I'm not that great at it. And if you respond with, oh, come on, I don't know why you're stressing, don't worry about it, it's not a big deal. If you respond in that way, I get that to you, it may not seem like a big deal, but for him, that was actually a moment of vulnerability. That was an opportunity for you to provide an environment and a space within the relationship where he feels heard and he feels supported by you. And he may even say it in a jokey way to try and pass it off as if it isn't a big deal. But actually, this is a very, very small test to see, is this the kind of woman that I can be vulnerable with? Is this the kind of woman that when I express something that I'm not too comfortable in, does she support me and lift me up? Or does she just tell me to man up? And a lot of the time, women don't even realize those little tests when they happen. So really look out for when a man is sharing something with you, especially when he's sharing something with you that doesn't show him to be on his A game, because that is most likely a moment of vulnerability and an opportunity for you to connect deeper with him. So when you do recognize these little things, be sure to nurture that. Be sure to listen to him. Be sure to be compassionate, to be empathetic. And the more you do that with the small things with him, the more he's going to open up about the bigger things with you. And it's at this point that he really starts to emotionally connect with you on a much deeper level. This next stage is consideration of long-term potential. This is where a man starts to envision you as his future partner. This is when he starts to wonder and ponder, what would it look like if I choose this person? What does it look like if we choose to build a foundation together, if we choose to build a family together? Now, a lot of the time, women tend to have this thought process that men have at this stage much earlier on. Women tend to have this thought process of seeing what or imagining what the future might be with this kind of man when she sees that he has the certain qualities that qualifies for her. So maybe you've been on a date or two and you see things and accolades that he's done, you're noticing certain qualities already and you're already starting to picture, oh, what would life actually look like if I continue down this road with this man? But this thought process for guys comes much later at this stage. It's at this point that he's truly considering you long term, that he starts to see the potential of your future. And the more he thinks about that, the more things are going well, the more he thinks this is somebody who I can choose, who's going to do the right thing over doing what is wanted or desired. Which brings us onto the last stage, which is his decision and commitment. He's considered you as his long-term potential. He likes how it looks. He likes the way things are going. He likes how you guys are connecting emotionally. This is where he makes the choice and the decision of, yes, I'm going to give her my commitment and I am all in. I'm not going to be open to connecting with any other woman, because he recognizes that, yes, he could still go on dates with other women and prolong this step of the process, and maybe that would still be fun. But he sees that doing that only expands the energy that he could be using to invest in you, who he sees his future with. And it's at this point that you as the woman get his full, unadulterated, unwavering commitment. It can be hard to recognize what stage a man is at, and even recognize if a man is going through these stages with you. And so if you're ready to recognize whether a guy is taking you seriously in this sense, then make sure you enroll in my Claim Your Man program below, where I show you how to do just that. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, keep it sleep.